I appreciate all of this respect of the space. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Minding Her Black Business is now becoming a podcast with a live recording. So you guys can listen in as we record at the same time that we always do. But moving forward, we will have the recordings of each episode available on our website for your review, because we know guys are busy. So thank you very, very much. All right, so let's get started. Today is a wonderful day to be minding her Black business. As just stated, we are now moving our Brunch and Build to a podcast where you all will be able to review the recording on our website, www.blvck.worldwide.org, to catch out all of these amazing female Black leaders in various industries. So let's get started. Favorite part of the call is our global footprint. You all are a part of a magnificent global Black woman-driven organization that is here for each of us as we move forward in our ventures. This week we have 99 cities worldwide, and as of this morning, we're actually at 100. We got another this morning, so super excited. We have representation in the states by means of Arizona, California, Florida, Georgia, Hawaii, Illinois, Kansas, Maryland, Michigan, Missouri, New Jersey, New York, North Carolina, Oklahoma, Pennsylvania, South Carolina, Tennessee, Texas, Virginia, and DC. So go ahead, United States, for showing up, joining, spreading the word. We thank each of you personally for helping us with this work. You guys have been doing amazing. Taking it one step farther, we also have membership on various continents via the United States, Canada, Nigeria, the UAE, Brazil, South Africa, the UK, Barbados, and Ghana. So as we send out our weekly updates, we want you guys to get involved, to let other Black women know. We are running this race hard through October 31st, and we would like as many of you to join this mission and this movement as possible. Thank you so much for being here. Now we get down to business. Our favorite part of the podcast is called Know Her Name. And the purpose of this section is that representation matters. This week's feature will be our very own Heather Dunham, founder of We Speak, hailing from the Fontana area of California. Heather is a phenomenal member of our executive leadership team, has been working very, very hard to push this mission forward. And we definitely want to make sure that you all are aware inside of our leadership that we have some amazing women that are fighting for this cause and pushing this mission forward. So Heather, welcome. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited. This is great.
This is phenomenal.
Thank you for the intro.
Not a problem. And I could not do your journey justice. So I want to get into some of the details. A lot of our girls that have worked with you just know that you're amazing, powerful, positive, but you've done a lot for your community. So I want to highlight some of those stories. So first and foremost, how did you get into activism in the first place? Advocacy for literacy, women and children. Where did that start?
Where do I begin with that? You know what? I've always been a person who has been into education. So my mom had a daycare when I was 9. And I just was always into education and learning. And then I began to see things in their truth with our educational system. And so upon moving to California, and just beginning to stay in the line of educational work, like tutoring and whatnot, I later on found myself working at a high school. And in that work, it was so clear to me that the educational system that I was thinking we had going on in this country just was not really the reality for students everywhere. And in particular, Black students. And so I remember really one day having a conversation with some students that were in my class. And at the time I was doing intervention work. So my role was to find out what the issues were academically for students, what the issues were socially, and then just kind of finding where to address the issue with the students who were having issues. And one day, and I always tell this story and I cringe every time, but it is what it is. It really did really kick me off. There was a debate between two of my students, and they were debating with me, and they were debating an issue around white students and Black students.
Okay.
And their take on it was white students are smarter than Black students.
Oh, no.
And I still remember how I felt in that moment. It was a real moment of truth for me, and something that I really had to go back and internalize. And at the time too, I had just, had a baby, my first son. And so I was just looking at all of that and thinking, if this is what the educational system is allowing our children to push forward with and think and have in their mindset, if this is the environment that is created, we're in trouble.
Yes.
And even more so, having a young Black child, a male child, which we all know that wasn't a secret. We knew that there is obvious. There's things going on. Our kids are being gunned down. In my work at that time, even I was sitting there with kids who were having tethers on their ankles and, just various things going on. But that one conversation that I had in that moment sparked a whole array of advocacy work for me. And I just went out on a mission to really address what I was seeing. And I had to look at, I looked at the fundamental skills that I saw were lacking. Mm-hmm. And from my research during that time, I was seeing a direct correlation between our kids' reading ability and their academic performance. Mm-hmm. And then even further, their academic performance and their behavior.
Yes.
And so with that being said, I wanted to get down to the basics. And so I looked at that reading and I just decided, if we can just even ignite that passion back into our children, then we'll have something to work with. So that really kicked off my journey from there. And then We Speak was born. And we began to push literacy in the streets, and we were giving out books and, just at any opportunity, speaking about the importance of reading. And it brought me in that same journey. I found myself facing people struggling to even hear my message because I was a Black woman. So it just, it has launched me into an array of work in the advocacy department for children and women.
I love that. There is so much to unpack there. I want to double back to one of my favorite parts of your journey when you dissect the problems. And for those of you that have children, one of my favorite and most inspiring pieces that I'm aware of when it comes to Heather's journey is the fact that she sees a problem and she dives in. And I don't ever want anyone listening in to feel like you need permission to intercept something going in the wrong direction. I don't ever want you to think you need a degree or you need experience. When you feel moved to interrupt a direction for something that impacts you and yours, you have that right. So I love that part of Heather. So I want to go back. I want to go back to where you said you noticed a correlation between literacy and our children's behavior. Mm-hmm. Tell me some of the things you've observed.
I saw in my work, I began to really dive into, okay, why is this kid having issues? And just looking at, where the lack or the drops in the foundation were. And I got to the point where I could pretty much calculate if a child walked into my office and they were on a tether or just anything. Mm-hmm. If I ran the reading test on them, it would come back around second or third grade.
Got it. One of the things that's really interesting, and you always point this out, is that our children, our melanated children, get mislabeled bad or problem children so quickly when there are other things going on.
Right, right.
Right? Sets them up on a path where they're being discarded before they even have a chance to blossom. And I think that's so important. So around what age would you like those that are listening in to start becoming aware of their sons and daughters' reading level? At what point do we really need to start checking in on that skill set?
That really has to begin day one. You know, those skills are built over time, but by the time a child is in third grade, that foundation is pretty much set.
Yep.
And so the statistics will show that if a child is not reading by the third or fourth grade, if their reading skills, if that foundation is not set by that point, then the chances of that child dropping out of school increases significantly. So really, and I began even with my child in the womb, and reading.
Yes.
We read every night. We do it ongoing, but that really does begin as soon as you get them out. It's exposure to words in a lot of ways that helps that skill develop. And so the more you read to your children and sing, the better off they are in that environment.
It's a thing. One thing I want to point out as a secondary supplemental statistic, I'm huge on statistics. I'm the biggest nerd you guys will ever meet. I believe in knowing fun facts about our community. It just makes life a little easier. They are building jails based on the third grade reading level. They are looking at the third grade reading level and deciding how many jail cells they're going to need for our kids based on that statistic.
That is so true. That's it right
true.
there. I mean, because those statistics, they are what they are, and we can ignore them if we want to, but that is the system that our kids are pushing through. And then to circle back to so many of our kids that can't read, I remember during that time when I was doing all that work and researching heavily, I just found it really appalling and disgusting that I had a student sitting in front of me who was in the 12th grade and they were reading on a second grade level.
Yes.
You know, and just that is very disturbing.
Yes.
And it's happening ongoing.
Yeah.
And I don't even think at this point, though, it's not a secret. We all know why. We know it's happening. You know, it's not something that is in the dark any longer. It's just at this point, what next? And I think that is really the question that we need to be addressing. Because in this season, in this moment right now, I feel like that's where we are. You know, we don't have to discuss any longer, are these things happening and why are they happening? We see it, we know it, it's happening, and we know why. So the question now really stems around what's the next step? And I think just as a people, as a country, we are all face to face with this same moment right now. Yeah. And the same question that I had back then is the same question that we're facing right now. What's next? What do we do? You know, and what no matter what industry you're in, really, to me at this point, whether it's education, whether it's medicine, whether we're talking about the way that we once walked into voting, all of that is going to be looking a lot different going forward. We can no longer return back to what we were doing. It's just not working, and it won't work going forward. I love Erica because she always would say the generation right now, you know, the realities are just not the realities that we were facing when we were children. So what's next? And I even love that about our tour. I'm just sidebar, our Reimagined Liberty.
Go, girl, tour. Go. Tell the people. Tell the people.
But I love that about the tour because it's asking that same question. I think that is the question that we need to all be addressing in this moment. What's next for our children, for our women? What's next?
I agree. So the tour that Heather is referencing is Blvck Womxn Worldwide is putting on a national social justice forum called Reimagine Liberty. And the purpose of this tour that we are planning as an executive team, and each one of you all is invited to join into the planning of, is to document the fact that America has never had a liberty model. America was based on debt first, where Europe shipped their indentured servants here. There were folks living here, by all rights having ownership of the land that was colonized. And then a whole historic mixture of events happened that based slavery and economics as the root of this country. What's so important about the story that Heather told to me is the fact that history is the reason we see ourselves through the lens that we do. What we are taught that we come from defines who we believe we are. So when children are looking at their experiences, specifically in education, and inside of an environment of learning, the conclusion they're allowed to draw is, oh, well, white kids are better than me. In this learning environment, mind you, this is not on the street, two kids talking,
Right.
coming to this conclusion.
Right.
Inside of the school, the conclusion that this third grader is coming to is, white kids are just naturally more talented than me. At
And
8
have
years
real
old.
arguments, you know, that
Real
they can
argument.
really present. They're presenting premises to support that argument.
Yes.
No, really.
And this is why.
Yeah.
This is why, right? So I want to take a step forward because you have a history of event organizing in your area, from book drives to a recent fight where the powers that be decided inside of the pandemic. And ladies, I want to be clear, this pandemic is an opportunity to absolutely disrupt the status quo. And we have to grab that by the horns and recognize that every time someone tells you we're going to go back to the norm, they're saying you're going back to what didn't work.
Right.
Every single time, let's go back to the office. Let's go back to the school. We cannot go back because at third grade, Black students are arguing down the instructor that white kids are better than me. And they have reason to believe so when you have publications in Texas that are printing slavery as a very amicable agreement between races, that are misquoting statistics, that are allowing Black children to believe that where they were born and where they live is any indication of the amount of success that they have access to. And we all know that's not true. So I do want to circle back to some of your organizing, Heather, in the IE area, Inland Empire. And who are some of the folks that you were able to enroll in your mission? For people that don't understand just how important literacy is, who are some of the folks that you were able to enroll into your mission?
I got a chance to work with a lot of different individuals in various organizations, whether it be like First Five. We got to do an event with that organization, which addresses the needs of children 0 to 5. I've had a chance to work with politicians and celebrities and parents, fathers, single parents, just an array of different individuals that I've encountered doing this work. And everyone just, it's beautiful because we all understand why we need to be doing what we're doing. And we understand why it is so important that we address that issue.
Yes. One of the reasons that I wanted to have Heather on this week is that Blvck Womxn Worldwide was just interviewed by the Los Angeles Times. So for those of you in media, marketing, PR, that's a big deal. I've been doing work a long time, and this is my first opportunity working with a wonderful reporter out of the Los Angeles office. And I think that it's important to follow up that level of awareness with a circle back to what's going on with this generation of children. We had millions of Black students across the US not be able to attend their graduations this year from high school, middle school, and elementary school. We have millions of students that are currently being homeschooled to the best of the ability of the parent. And what has not been discussed at all in this election year is what we're going to do to catch these children up. Inside of this pandemic, 100,000 Americans dead, there are 3 times that many students in every single state that are not receiving proper education right now. And it's not because the parents aren't trying, it's because they're working still.
Right.
And we haven't addressed that at all. No one has come up with a system, a pivot, or a solution to address all of these children that have lost 2 semesters of education and core competency. And that will be showing up on our statistics later. Very soon, we will have an entire generation of 3rd, 4th, 5th graders at that pivotal age between 8 and 11, where my lack of ability to read is going to start resulting in the acting out that starts me on the path to criminality before I become an adult. And I think it's important to talk about that. For those of you all that are on the chat, go ahead and drop a me in the chat if you have a child between the ages of 8 and 11. Whether it's yours, a niece, a nephew, a friend, if you are aware of a Black child between 8 and 11 today, drop that in the chat.
The thing is with our kids, they were already, behind in some ways. And so I would just have to stretch out and say the system wasn't working anyway. True. And so I think that though this is a very tough time for everyone, it is still an opportunity in this to really rethink how we educate our children, how we address their needs. We just have the opportunity in this moment to really go back through that, rethink it, and come up with solutions that really do work. Just because the statistics are showing it wasn't working. And even the fact that I could sit in a classroom and talk to kids who, like I said, were in 12th grade and they're not reading, there's a breakdown. And so I find that with the times that we're in this moment, though it is difficult, we're watching our loved ones lose so much, so many are losing loved ones. It still is a moment where we can redefine our next steps.
I want to point out the fact that, Heather, I love the courage with which you state the obvious, which is that the current system of education is already not working, which is true. The American scholastic model was designed to bring folks from everywhere to a point where they could be coached. It was designed to create a labor force where we all spoke the same language, had basic reading and math skills so that we could follow independent instruction, meaning that the person that supervised you didn't have to stand there and walk you through the labor. It created an opportunity for middle management and a melanated labor force. We have not taken a second look at it since.
Right.
As a comparison, folks in most other countries, by the time they are 18 years old, can speak a minimum of 2 languages, native tongue and English, by a minimum of 18 years old. In many places, children under the age of 11 can speak up to 4 dialects. So when we look at the American education system, inside of COVID-19, my challenge to our ladies on this call that are listening is for us to start giving some voice to what that could look like. Because it's on us. It doesn't matter that the school systems are shutting down. It doesn't matter that books are being printed with misinformation. At the end of the day, Heather's point of what do we do next will always be the question to ask. I want to circle back to a final story that you told me, Heather, for your own sons. There was a school that was doing very well for Black children in your area, and they tried to deny this school the opportunity to be housed physically in the semester coming up. What did that fight look like?
Wow. It was a definite experience that I ended up having the biggest smile at the end, because in the middle of that fight, it was unexpected. We weren't thinking that we were going to have a situation like that to face, but we all understood why that was taking place. And prior to that situation arising, we had already known that that day would probably come. And there would be some kind of effort to take down what was happening in those walls. And in that fight, what I saw was a group of African American parents who I don't think people were really expecting to step up the way that we did.
Yeah.
But together, we all came together. We wrote letters. We spoke up. We spoke our truths. And it was a phenomenal experience because I had never seen or just felt such a uniting joy, just in a fight like that. But I saw all those parents, grandparents, we were all moving on one accord, and we submitted our letters. Those letters, I remember that, just sitting in and listening to the meeting, but those letters were read for 30 minutes. And it was just beautiful to see, because at the end of that, there was nothing anyone can say about the school. We had made our point as parents and grandparents, and we made it very clear we were willing to fight for the education of our children at all costs.
Yes.
And we got it done. And I loved it. It was an amazing moment. Just it shows what can be done when we come together and stand up and push forward as one.
So I'm gonna break this down a little bit because I'm a huge fan of process. So key one, right? Key point one was you all were prepared for opposition. All these Black kids doing amazing equaled what? Opposition at some point in the future. And you knew that.
Mm-hmm.
Is that
Right.
correct?
Right. It's, that is not, we know that these are the fights.
Yes.
I don't think that that's a secret any longer. I mean, especially with what we've been dealing with for the past few years here. It's not a secret anymore. So we know what fight we're up against. It really just does get around to what are you willing to do about it?
So step two, after we acknowledge that we know a fight is coming at some point because all of Lee's Black children are doing amazing under what was a Black and Hispanic woman-led school. Is that correct?
That is correct. So the school was founded by 3 ladies, and they did an amazing job creating a space where our children could learn and be celebrated.
I love it. And when that opposition came for this Black woman-led effort, step 3 is that you all organized as a group. You pulled together numbers. Once we recognized that we are now in a fight, the power came from the unity and the response in that unity. Is that correct?
Correct. Immediate response. There was an immediate call the very next day following the school board meeting in which that took place. And on that call, we all were just, what do we need to do to push forward? And what do we need to do to save this school that we know is making the biggest difference in our child's life? And we got it done. But back to your process. I'm sorry.
I love it. That was the final, the win. If you stick to it, hit it hard when you first see it in overwhelming numbers, Black women will move this world. It happens every single time. And I bring this process piece up because for my sisters that are fighting alone, the step in the process you're missing is the unity piece. Get your girls behind you and then go back to the fight.
Absolutely.
As a tribe, as melanated women, our strength has always been in our numbers, and it will forever be in our numbers. And when I think about Heather's story, one of the loudest pieces to me is that it took a team of Black and brown women to start an experience so different and excellent, and it took an even larger team to fight for it. Our power in the future that we're trying to create is coming back together as Black women. With all of the things that we still carry in our DNA, all of the Willie Lynch symptoms of reasons to not get along, That intentional division is put there to rob us of our power. And I want to keep celebrating women like Heather Dunham and her women up in the Fontana area that fought for this school, and everywhere that our Black women are having this fight, specifically because you are recognizing where our power come from and the importance of our tribe. So I just celebrate you all. I absolutely celebrate you all because you made
Thank you.
history and changed the trajectory for each one of those students in an important area. Without that literacy and without that learning, those babies would be in a very different space in about 10 years.
That's right. That's absolutely right. And I think that, just right now, the same thing has to happen to go forward.
Yes.
We must stand together as a people, as women, as men. We all must stand together in this moment and face this time head on in unity.
I absolutely love it. I absolutely love it. I can't thank you enough, Heather, for sharing your story with us. Heather has given us the honor of her service in the capacity of the Regional Director of Strategic Partnership. She has absolutely communicated the mission, the love, and the culture of this sisterhood in a way that I find humbling and absolutely celebrate this woman. One of the things that Heather used to talk about a lot prior to coming on board is the fact that as a Black woman, moving in spaces when your voice is this big and you are this sure of who you are can be difficult. When you have male supervision, when you work in corporate America, as you're just walking around being your audacious and brilliant self, you can be met with feedback that doesn't feel pleasant all the time. And
Absolutely.
inside of those spaces, right, Heather? Inside of those spaces, you're still producing all this change in your community.
That's right. Definitely. I mean, it's unfortunate, but it's the fight that we're fighting and we know it. And so we just have to keep going despite the opposition, despite the foolishness that, is being spread around. It is just absolutely necessary that we push forward. And to do that with others is just, it's amazing. I love being a part of Blvck Womxn Worldwide. And I love it for the very sake of the unity and the message that we're able to carry and the strength and the numbers that we have is just, there is nothing else better than that.
I want to thank Heather so much for being our Know Your Name feature of the week. I want to thank you guys for listening in. And I'd like to take a small pivot to our mission for those that are listening in for the first time.
Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, girl, bless this space, bless this space. So our mission as Blvck Womxn Worldwide, a charitable nonprofit startup, is to establish the advocacy for education, for the advancement, for the mentorship, wellness, and financial success of Black women in every walk of life. We recognize COVID-19 as the largest disruptor to the status quo in our lifetime. So during this 2020 global pandemic, a team of brilliant Black women analyzed the existing realities of millions of Black women across the globe. And what we found in that data is that our pain and our frustration is not isolated. So using a global lens, we seek to develop the technology necessary to make protecting and supporting all Black women in our venture sustainable. The approach that we use is tech and teamwork to create the first global database of this kind. We connect individual Black women and their children with solutions powered by Black women using your mobile phone. So just like talks today, we break barriers for Black women-owned brands and businesses through education, capacity building, community, and connection. We build bridges that repurpose the $1 trillion annual Black spend for the personal and professional development of Black women worldwide. And at the end of each one of our podcast episodes, we always have a call to action that is threefold. The first is that we ask you to get involved. Please go to our website, www.blvck, spelled with a V, women, spelled with an X, worldwide.org, and pick a committee you would like to be a part of. Our leadership meets in a steering committee format on Zoom every single Wednesday, and we review next steps to be the change that we want to see in the world. We ask you all in your personal lives to seek out and connect with Black women on purpose. If you're getting your nails done, getting your hair done, looking for a sponsor or looking to invest, looking for a place to work or looking to hire someone, seek out a sister and make that connection. The final ask of us is to tell this story. Let the world know that there is an organization here that wants nothing from you but to connect your excellence with another Black woman with that same skill set. If you have a need and she has an ask, let's get you guys together so we can continue to accelerate Black women in motion. Of course, we are always looking for additional membership, and we are always asking for donations to keep all of these wonderful global initiatives going. But I can't thank enough each of you that has tuned into today's podcast episode. You guys have been absolutely phenomenal, and I am so happy to have had you. At the end of our calls, we always close out with a question and answer segment for our Know Her Name feature. Does anyone have any questions for Heather before we close? Look at these faces. For those listening in, our chat is on fire right now, which I appreciate. Fantastic. Well, if you do have any other questions about today's podcast or those moving forward, please go ahead and email us at connect@blvckwomenworldwide.org, and we'll be sure to pass those on to Heather or any member of our team in the future. Heather, thank you so much for being with us today. Thank you so much for this amazing conversation.
Thank you. I really enjoyed the time. Thank you so much for hearing me.
No worries, no worries. And we will see you guys out there. Enjoy your Saturday, and we'll be right back on this same episode recording next week with a different feature for the Know Her Name special. Thank you guys so much, and we love you all.
Bye, ladies.
Bye.